Wow. It's crazy that the last time I was on this channel, in front of this camera, posting a video of any kind, it was the Unlimited podcast where Walter Main and I went back through the last decade of sports and professional wrestling. The last decade. From 2010 to 2019. And we picked apart the best, the worst, the good, the bad. And it's crazy that now I'm here doing a video, and this first year of a brand new decade, it's crazy to think of just how insane this year has been. And we're not even deep into the summer yet. We didn't even get to the fall yet. Or the winter. We're not even halfway through the year. Or we're right around the halfway point, whatever you want to say. It's crazy thinking about the world that we're in right now. It's new. It's uncharted waters. It's completely different from anything we're used to. People that have been affected by COVID-19, there have been millions. Not hundreds, not thousands, millions. 12,000, close to 13,000, just in the state of New Jersey alone, dead. 100,000, or whatever the number is in the United States, gone. That's insane. And I don't care if you're left or right, Democrat, Republican. I don't care. That's insane. And it's not good. And, I'm not going to come on here and go on a political rant or tell you to wear a mask, but the one thing I can say as we start to see reopenings and we start to see sports come back, which is why I'm here doing a Q&A, don't be selfish. Just be safe. Just be smart. Because I'm here doing this sports and wrestling themed Q&A, but there are more things that are important. There are things that are more important than sports and wrestling. And one of them is health. And I've been blessed to have my health. My family's been blessed to have their health. My boyfriend has been blessed to have his health and his family's health. The last thing I want any of you that watch this video to be is unhealthy. And I definitely don't want any of you to die. I'm not saying it's going to get to that point, but I don't want that. So, as we go into the reopenings, and as this year just trugs along, again, just go out there, be safe. And remember that it's not just about you anymore. I know a lot of people hate hearing that, hate seeing that, or, just hate it in general. It's not about you anymore. It's about the world now. It's about everybody. So, be safe is all I can say. And let's get to this Q&A. It's been a while since I've done one. I opened up the floodgates for questions, and I've got about 50 of them, or somewhere along the lines of 50. Chris Rubio kicks it off with 20, whatever, almost 30 questions. It's crazy. When I ask for questions, he definitely delivers. I'm not saying the rest of you don't. I'm just saying he delivers. And he broke it down into a couple parts, which is even better. Wrestling questions first. What do you think the plan is for Sasha Banks now that she and Bayley are women's tag team champions? And that'll actually lead into the next question. Speaking of the women's tag team championships, should WWE just get rid of them since the company does not have enough women's tag teams? No. What they should do was go back a year and a half when they created the belts and don't create the belts. yes, they should get rid of them because it's not even just about having enough women's tag teams. They just don't have enough women. And nor does the WWE have enough care about those titles. They don't care about the men's tag titles. Why are they going to care about the women's tag titles? So what should they do with Sasha and Bayley? They should have been broken up 2 years ago. We're still waiting. So what should they do? Who knows? Who cares? I'm just going to be honest. Will WWE give Asuka a much better / longer championship reign than when she was SmackDown Women's Champion? I think they have to, because, you know, Becky is going to be out for a long time. I heard Charlotte's probably going to be out for a long time. You really don't have any other women. Or you really don't have a huge roster of women, I should say. So, unless they're going to hot potato the belts and just give it to everybody, I see Asuka having a very long reign. What do you think WWE should do with Nia Jax? I have been reading that Nia's been getting a lot of heat for her matches and that she injures her opponents. Well, she does. And they shouldn't fire her, because if they're going to fire her, they should fire Seth Rollins. Because Seth Rollins has been known to injure people. It's widely proven. So if they're going to fire her, they need to fire Rollins. But they're not going to fire her. The most they'll do is they'll send her down to NXT. But again, kind of going off the Asuka question of, do you think Asuka will have a long title reign? Well, I actually don't see Nia Jax going down to NXT because, once again, they don't have a lot of women on the roster. So she's going to be a mainstay for a while, unfortunately. Should WWE get rid of the 24/7 title and 205 Live and NXT UK? Sounds like you just want WWE to get rid of everything, and honestly, I can't blame you. I can't blame you. There's so much product, and really not a lot of people are watching any of the product. So, because the WWE has focused more so on quantity than quality. And it shows. And it's been showing for years. Should they get rid of the 24/7 title? Yeah, because it seems like they're already backing off of it. It seems like the segments that they're doing with it aren't as popular as they were. They aren't as funny, comedic, or entertaining as they were. They're already losing their creative touches on this, which no surprise there. So yeah, they should probably get rid of it. 205 Live, I honestly didn't even know it was still a thing. Yeah, they should get rid of it, because if the cruiserweights are going to be appearing on NXT, you know, NXT just expanded to 2 hours, I'm sure, or has been expanded to 2 hours for a while now. I don't see why you can't just incorporate them onto NXT, especially since their title is an NXT title. And NXT UK, that's a tough one. That I think they can keep. I think they can keep that. I'm not watching it anyway, so I don't know. Why have Raya Ripley win the NXT women's title, then lose it to Charlotte at WrestleMania, then have Charlotte, who did not get pinned, lose the NXT title to Io Shirai? Great question. Great question. If they were just going to have her lose, I asked the question of why have her win the Rumble and why have her win the belt at Mania if she wasn't going to have a long reign. Now, maybe that had something to do with the injury. I don't know. But if it didn't, then it doesn't make any sense. Will John Cena return for one more title reign to break the tie with Ric Flair? I'm going to be honest. Everybody likes to point at Cena and say he's done. He's probably not coming back for... Or I get the perception that Cena doesn't want to come back for a title, and I've been hearing that a lot more lately, which is mind-boggling to me, because He's a 16-time world champion, and he's part of the Breakfast Club. You know me in the Breakfast Club. So there's always a chance. There's always a chance. Whether it's in the next year or the next couple of years, but I do think he gets to at least 17. I really honestly think so. How do you think the Raw and SmackDown tag titles are being used? Should WWE call up new teams for both Raw and SmackDown? It doesn't matter. It does not matter. It doesn't matter. You could literally go through every era in WWE history. The Hogan era, the New Generation era, the Attitude era, Ruthless Aggression, the PG era. You can pluck all of the best teams from those eras, and it wouldn't matter. That's how bad the tag team divisions are. It's awful. It's awful. So, if they call up teams, it's not going to matter. And what should they do with the Raw and SmackDown tag team titles? How about just care about them? Let's start there. Start caring about them. Maybe that'll work. Will 2021 be the year The Undertaker will be inducted into the Hall of Fame? And how much does Undertaker have left to continue wrestling? Well, the second part of that question, apparently he's retiring, or he retired, or, you know, a lot of reports have come out saying he's retired. I don't know if he came out and said it himself, or if someone else said it. I'll believe it when I see it. I will believe it when I see it. Next time Saudi Arabia calls with a big check and Undertaker's there, don't say I didn't tell you. Don't say I didn't warn you. And if he is retired, will he be the inductee, or will he be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2021? Yes, I do think so. The news of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant not returning for the 2019-2020 season. How deep of a playoff run do you think the Brooklyn Nets will have? I don't think that the Brooklyn Nets would have had a deep run with them there. Because it's not like the Nets were lighting the world on fire with Kyrie there. And Durant has yet to even play a game with Brooklyn. And I don't know how he fits with the team. I don't know if they're going to blend well together, if they're going to gel, if they're going to mesh. I don't know if they're going to work together or work well together. So even if they were there, there's no guarantee, A, they even make the playoffs, because they still have to complete the rest of the regular season. And B, if they're not there, or if they are there, and if they do make the playoffs, I don't see them getting past the first round. I honestly don't. Should the Nets just position themselves better for a draft pick? I'm confused by this question. Should the Nets just position themselves better for a draft pick and contend for the NBA title in 2012? Oh, okay. So you're saying, should they tank this? Well, it's too late for them to tank now. It's too late for that now. They're already part of the group of teams that's probably going to make the playoffs, so it's too late for them to tank. Now, are you saying, should they go out there and purposely lose and miss the playoffs so they get a lottery pick? If that's the case, I question why they even agreed to come back to play. Every single team that's going to come back to play obviously wants to play to win the title. If you don't want to play to win the title, I question why you agreed to come back. So, should they position themselves for a better pick? No, it's too late now. It's too late now. Who will the Brooklyn Nets and New York Knicks hire as their new coaches? The Knicks, I don't care who they hire. They need a prayer. They need a prayer. The Nets, I didn't hate Kenny Atkinson, But I do think that whoever, I'm not going to name specifics because I honestly don't know who's available. But they need somebody that can handle a star lineup, especially when Durant comes back and when Kyrie Irving is fully healthy. So anybody that can handle a star lineup, anybody that can handle being in New York, yeah, basically anybody that can handle the spotlight. Who is your pick to win the NBA championship once the season returns? Oh my god. My pick to win. The sadistic part of me wants to say the Lakers. I'm actually gonna go with the Bucks. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I think the finals will probably come down to the Lakers and the Bucks. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with the Bucks. It took the NFL 4 years to apologize for some of their players and for some of their players to speak out. But which NFL team that needs a quarterback should sign Colin Kaepernick? I don't think any of them should. I honestly don't. Because, I mean, say what you will about fairness and being fair and apologetic to Colin Kaepernick, but you also have to accept the reality that he hasn't played a game in 4 years. So I don't see any team just jumping on him and immediately making him their starting quarterback. I don't see it. What team that needs a quarterback should hire him? New England Patriots. Might not be the worst idea. Chicago Bears. Again, might not be the worst idea. Who else? It's a tough one. You know what? Chris, just to anger you, New York Jets. Boom. Sam Darnold sucks. If the NFL has a season, how will Gronk and Tom Brady do with the Bucks? Will the Bucks be part of the Super Bowl in their home stadium? Will they be part of the Super Bowl? There's always a chance, but I don't think so. But I'm going to hold off judgment until I see how Brady and Gronk do in their new environment. So how will they do? I'm sure now that they have each other again, as weird as that sounds, they're gonna do well, and the Bucks are gonna do a lot better. I don't think they're immediate Super Bowl contenders, but I think they're gonna do okay, at least okay. Next question: who should the Devils hire as their new general manager and head coach? Will the Devils get another first overall draft pick in the upcoming draft? There's a good chance. And how sad is that? This will be their third number one overall pick in 4 years, if they get it. That's if they get it. It's crazy. It's not something to be proud of. It really isn't. Especially considering that this was the year that they were supposed to take a big step forward, and they wound up taking 2 giant steps back. General manager, I'm not sure. Head coach, I really want Gerard Gallant. Stupid that Vegas fired him. So, Devils, get on him. Get him, please. Anybody. Just, I'll take anybody that has a clue, but I want Gallant. Period. How should the MLB have handled the situation about trying to have a season? Step 1, don't make everything public. Don't drag these feuds onto Twitter and other forms of social media. I understand that the journalists and the reporters and the insiders have their jobs to do, but not every single damn detail needs to be released. Not everything needs to be said in a public forum. That doesn't even just go for the reporters and the insiders. That goes for the players too. If you look at Trevor Bauer's Twitter page, his pinned tweet is literally a collection of tweets directed straight to Rob Manfred. Like, is that really necessary? I understand you don't like the guy. I don't really like the guy either, and I'm the one that works for Major League Baseball. But is that necessary? So if there's one thing I would change about this entire situation, and you know what? They both have fair arguments. I'll give them that. I think they're dumb for making this about money, but what else is new with Major League Baseball? I just don't think that the situation should have been public. I think anytime you try to negotiate in public, it doesn't work. And it gives you a bad look. And it's given baseball a bad look. So that's the one thing I would change. Should MLB have followed what the NBA did to return? No, because the MLB didn't have a season. The NBA actually had a season. So if you're going to jump straight to the playoffs, I think that's a little unfair. It means every team makes the playoffs. Like, do teams like the Marlins and the Tigers and the Royals deserve to be in the playoffs, or the White Sox, or the Pirates? You know, teams like that, Seattle. No, I don't think they should have did that. Should MLB just try to, well, I can't really answer this question now, but he asked, should MLB just try to focus on having a 2021 season, or should they try to have a 2020 season? Well, they're going to have a 2020 season. I'm a little late recording the Q&A, so I'm sorry for that. Peyton Dale, thank you, Chris, for all the questions. That took up 22 minutes of the damn video. Peyton Dale, do you think it's better to be a great wrestler with not much of a character and average mic work, or to be a really good character with great promos but average in the ring? Ooh. You can see it in today's WWE that it's better to be a great wrestler instead of a great character. For my taste, and if you look throughout the scope of WWE history, it's easily great character, great promos, average or bad in the ring. Hulk Hogan didn't get to where he was, and the WWF at the time didn't get to where they were because of Hogan's in-ring work. They just didn't. They didn't get to where they were because of Andre the Giant's in-ring work. They didn't get to where they were because of, who else? Who else from that time? Like, Ted DiBiase, he was a good worker, but was he a great worker? No. What drew them in were their characters, were their storylines, were their promos. Hogan versus Andre on that main event show that was on NBC television that drew over 33 million people to watch the show. It's not because they were good wrestlers. It's because they put out a good story. And that's why you look at like the New Generation era and you look at the PG era now, they shifted so much focus from the storytelling and the characters and the promos to who does the best moonsault, or who does the best drop kick, or who has the best in-ring work. I'm not saying in-ring work's not important, but when you look at the scope of wrestling history, in-ring work is a part of it. It is not the be-all, end-all. It is not the most important aspect. It's not. Tell me about this. In the Attitude Era, were you drawn in by Stone Cold being a great wrestler, or were you drawn in by his feuds with Vince, The Rock, Austin? Were you drawn in by his character, his promos, the funny moments that he had, the great moments that he had? Now, yes, you were. You weren't drawn in because he can put on a good match. You were drawn in because of his character. The Rock. Luckily, The Rock was gifted with good in-ring work. He's a natural athlete. But were you drawn in because of that? No. You were drawn in because of his promos. You were drawn in because of his character, because he was entertaining. When they shifted focus in the new generation era to Shawn and Bret, and I'm not trying to undercut them. They're both all-time great WWE superstars. They are. But they were also the top guys of a bad era. And it was because the focus shifted away so much that nobody cared anymore. And that's also what's happening now. Part of the reason why there's no audience, or not no audience. Part of the reason why there are less viewers is because there's no entertainment anymore. It's just an oversaturated, overproduced, watered down wrestling show. It's not an entertainment show. It's World Wrestling Entertainment. Still have to worry about the entertainment. So for my taste, it's better to be a really good character with really good promos and average in-ring work at best. It's just my opinion. Baron Stevenson, what to you makes a GOAT candidate in sports? Is it somebody who statistically runs the charts as a solo player, somebody who leads their team to championships through selfish playing, or a player who works on the team around him no matter what to better said team universally so they don't need to directly rely on them? Wow, good question. Really good question. I think it's a combination of all three. I look at basketball as a prime example, and I look at Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is widely considered the best basketball player of all time. There's no question about that. But he didn't do it, he did it by being a selfish player, of course. Put up all those points. Every time he got the opportunity, the ball was passed to him. He got the ball. He had the ball. He was making the shots. He was making the plays. It was about Michael Jordan. But he also made everybody on the team better. He also helped a lot of guys. Everybody looks at Scottie Pippen as an example of that. I'm not saying Scottie Pippen couldn't have been a great basketball player, but he was easily better than what he could have been because of Michael Jordan. He helped everybody. So while he was also selfish, in a way, he helped lead their team to a title, to multiple titles, by not only being selfish, but by being a team player. And then I look at the third thing that you said, a player who works on the team around him no matter what to better said team universally. I think of Major League Baseball, and I think of the 2015 New York Mets. I don't consider Yoenis Cespedes an all-time great Met. I don't consider him the greatest player of all time. But when the Mets got him, just his presence alone made the team better. They needed a big bat in the middle of the lineup. They got their big bat in the middle of the lineup. And they went to the World Series because of it. I don't think anybody can dispute that. So, yeah, it's a great question. I think it's a combination of all three. Brett Litke. Excuse me. If Giants were real, would you be interested in a baseball game where the Giants play a team of dwarves? And which team do you think would win? Well, the Giants would just squash everybody, but the dwarves would have an advantage because of their speed. So I might side with the dwarves. If you had to open a wrestling federation today, what would its color scheme be? You can't go wrong with like the Raw or the SmackDown colors, red and white or blue and white. I haven't seen anybody use orange, so maybe orange, just to be different, maybe orange and black. If there has been orange, I apologize, but I don't recall ever seeing orange in the color scheme of a wrestling show. So maybe orange. What sport do you think is the hardest to referee? Ooh. Oh, man. In terms of the actual like play call, like, yeah, in terms of the actual like making the rulings and stuff like that, probably baseball, because there's just so many rules and so many unwritten rules, and the reason why they're unwritten is because they're stupid. um, I might side with baseball in terms of which referee job is the hardest because of physical activity, because of like staying in shape, and might go with hockey, and I might go with basketball, just because with hockey and basketball you're constantly moving, you're constantly running around, you're constantly skating, you're constantly trying to look at every single thing going on while you're moving. Soccer too can fit right into that category. Yeah, I'll go with them. What's your favorite wrestling related logo of all time? Could be a company, a pay-per-view, a show, or a superstar logo. Ooh, it's a good question. I always loved the original WrestleMania logos. Um, as bad as WrestleMania 2 was, their logo was really good with the big red 2 on it. It looked old school. It looked nice. I honestly don't know. It's a good question. Walter Main, what would you say is the best single season for a hitter, starting pitcher, and closing pitcher? Best single season for a hitter. I guess it depends on your perspective of what you like out of your players. If you like home runs, you could probably say Barry Bonds with the 73 home run season. If you like a pure hitter, you can probably go with Ted Williams when he hit, he's the last player to hit 400 in a season. Starting pitcher, closing pitcher, just for the amount of saves that he got, maybe K-Rod back in 2008 when he set the all-time saves record for a single season. I believe it was 62. So maybe that. You can also say, didn't Jose Valverde back in 2011 go perfect in save opportunities? So maybe that's another one. Starting pitcher. Wow. Just so many all-time great pitchers. And there's so many pitchers in the late 1800s, early 1900s that I'm going to have to rule out just because I don't know all of them and I don't know all of their stats. Because there have been pitchers that have won 30 and 35 games in a year, pitching to, a 2 ERA or lower. Like, I don't care if it's the dead ball era, that's still impressive. Still got to be accounted for. So, starting pitcher. Oh, man. I'll go with a recent one. Zach Greinke in 2015. I think he was robbed of the NL Cy Young. He had a sub 2 ERA. He was 19-3. He was pretty dominant. They gave the Cy Young to Jake Arrieta. I'm not saying he wasn't deserving of it, but Greinke's ERA was just off the charts good. So maybe him. I can't think of any other people. When you're evaluating an athlete's career, do you value consistently being good or a period of greatness but sticking around too long and dipping below batting average or dipping below average? Mostly consistently being good. But I do respect the players that had a lot of longevity. They could be staying around for too long, but if it helps their overall career numbers, then what's the issue with that? What's the problem with that? What more do they have to prove except, personal goals, personal hitting goals, personal pitching goals? So what's wrong with that? If you could put together your ideal 5 versus 5 War Games match, who would be in it and why, and what order would you have them in? I don't know what order I would have them in. But the first one that comes to mind is I would get the original 3 members of the NWO and 2 other members versus the original DX. Boom. Match makes itself. Who enters first? Who cares? Who enters last? Probably Hogan, but who cares? So, yeah. Original NWO, original DX. Who would you say had the most complex career in wrestling history, and why? Oh my god. Well, one recent one that comes to mind is Lars Sullivan. Oh man. That guy debuts in NXT, comes up to the main roster, gets injured, comes back. Oh my god. Comes back, has an anxiety attack, or whatever. Has the anxiety attack first, then comes back, then gets injured, then is revealed to be a homophobe, only to find out that he did gay porn. It's gotta be Lars Sullivan. Oh my god. Yeah, I would probably go with Lars Sullivan. What sport benefits most from good commentary? Ooh, baseball. Because it's such a slow sport that if you don't have a good commentary team, it's just going to drag and it's going to feel boring. Luckily, I've been blessed to be a Mets fan, as weird as that sounds, because one of the best commentary teams in baseball is the Mets team. So I've been blessed with them. And they've definitely made a lot of miserable Mets games more enjoyable. I will say that. What do you think is the worst blown call in sports history, and what blown call was most overreacted to? The blown call that was most overreacted to was probably Jim Joyce's call for Armando Galarraga's perfect game. And the only reason why I say that is because not that the call wasn't wrong and it wasn't bad, the reaction to it was just brutal. It's brutal. Like, wasn't he getting death threats? Like, come on. This is sports. It's really not a big deal. He didn't go and sleep with your girlfriend. He didn't go and kill someone or rape someone. We're going to give him death threats over a blown call? Come on. Like, the dude was in tears. Dude was in tears in the interview after the game, saying, like, I took a perfect game away from that kid. Like, that right there should have at least given Jim Joyce a hell of a lot of respect. And he's still one of my favorite umpires, even though he's retired now. Still one of my favorite umpires of all time. Just a classy guy. Just a class act. So that one's probably most overreacted to. Worst blown call, well, that one's up there. Can think of another one. Weirdly enough, it was the year after. It was also baseball. And it was a 19-inning game between the Pirates and the Braves. And the last play of the game, it was a fielder's choice. It was a play at home. The Braves were the home team, so winning run was at third. Braves player sprints home. He's out by a mile, and the umpire called him safe. And remember, this was before instant replay, or the reviews at least. So it was the worst call. It was one of the worst calls I've ever seen. It's one of the worst calls I've ever seen. What is a more impressive individual accomplishment to you? Perfect game or a 20 strikeout game? Honestly, the 20 strikeout game. The perfect game, you can have a lot of strikeouts, but you also have to make sure that your defense, the team around you, is well suited enough to continue helping you pitch this perfect game. A lot of times, as much credit as the pitchers deserve for their roles, you also have to give credit to the defense. So a 20 strikeout game. That means that out of the 27 outs, 20 of them were because of you. I think that's more impressive, easily. What would you attribute the absolute decline of Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor between 2003 and 2006 to? Are they the biggest what if 1 and 2 combo of pitchers of all time? They're one of them. I forget, weren't they injured at that time? So maybe it was injury. I honestly don't know. It's a good question. What is the best sports game and wrestling event you've attended? Ooh. I'll give you two for the sports. It was 2014. It was a game between the Mets and the Giants. And Jacob deGrom and Jake Peavy both had no-hitters going into the 7th inning. Jake Peavy actually had a perfect game going into the 7th inning. Just the thought of being at a potential no-hitter was an amazing experience. But one that tops that was Game 4 of the first round of the 2018 playoffs between the Devils and the Lightning. Just being at an NHL playoff game is an experience in itself. I recommend it for anybody. It's an experience that you need to have because it's awesome. There's nothing like it. The energy level is off the charts. People are into it. People are invested. It's crazy. Just a crazy time, crazy experience. Best wrestling show I've attended? WrestleMania 29. What's your favorite match you've witnessed in person? Probably from that same show, CM Punk versus The Undertaker. What match did you see, what match you saw in person surprised you with how good it was? Ooh. Honestly, with Taker being another year older, maybe CM Punk versus The Undertaker. It's the first one that jumps to my head. What match that you saw in person disappointed you? Triple H Brock, from that same show. The Asylum match at Extreme Rules 2016, or whatever the hell it was called. I think it was the Asylum match. I think that's what it was called. It's just a bad match. It's a bad match. And it was so long. It went at least 20 minutes. Like, even when they got to the thumbtack spot at the end, it was like, just end the match already. Just end it. It was a bad match. Favorite spot you've seen in person? Ooh. I don't know if this really counts as a spot, but Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles when they were fighting in the crowd at Extreme Rules 2016, just because I wasn't used to wrestlers fighting in the crowd at the shows that I would go to. So seeing that in person was actually really fun. Jacob Gardaki, will you become a NASCAR fan soon? Oh, man. Just because I'm happy that sports are back, maybe I'll give NASCAR a shot too. But they've got problems. Paul Biello wraps it up with 3 questions. Rumor is Brock is posed to fight Lashley at either SummerSlam or Survivor Series. Do you make the match for a title? If so, does Brock walk in champ or does Lashley? I would make the match for a title. And I think Brock would have to walk in as champion. Unfortunately, that means Brock would have to walk in as champion, which would imply that he's champion, which is something that I don't want to see. So, yeah. If they do the match, it should be for a title, even though I don't want to see Brock as champion. And with how Lashley has been used lately, I really don't want to see him as champion either. Do you think allowing this massive playoff format for the NHL hurts it or helps it? Do you think it's unfair to the teams that actually played to earn their position or no? Yeah, it's a little bit unfair. But I do think that hmm I do think that the NHL had the most fair plan, which was, oh, you didn't make the playoffs. Here you are, you're in the playoffs now. I think it was a fair plan, but it's a little bit unfair to the teams that were in the top 8. It is. You're right. Do you think this hurts it or helps it? Helps it from an entertainment standpoint, hurts it from a little bit of a credibility standpoint, because now you're just basically saying, "Oh, you weren't one of the top 8 teams, but here you go, you're in the playoffs." To me, I think that's a bad look. And finally, do you think Cody blading as much as he does is hurting both him and the product? Do you also think he is stuck in the old school mindset of doing things? Yes. Is it hurting him and the product? No. But do I think it's a little bit excessive? Yes. And yes, do I think he's stuck in the old school mindset of doing things? Yes, I do. And thank you for this Q&A. This was a fun one. A lot of questions. It went 46 minutes. This is probably the longest Q&A I've done. I'm going to try my best to do this weekly, or at least bi-weekly. So I'll put the post up asking you for your questions in all of our pages that are down in the description box down below. One quick shout out before I go. My friend Dylan Messerschmidt, who is a professional wrestler, has t-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees. If you look up Dylan Mesh, you will see this t-shirt. I'm wearing one. A lot of my friends that you've seen on this channel are wearing one. If you would like to wear one, go to Pro Wrestling Tees and buy one. It'll help him out. It'll help wrestling out. It's a good shirt. I like the design. I like the color. I like the idea. It's great. I love it. I recommend you get it too. Thanks, guys. See you later.